There are really just kind of very few things that college basketball does better than college football. I don't know that I could count them on one hand. And I realize that non-conference scheduling is a little easier basketball wise. You got more room to work with, but there are big time college basketball non-conference games all the time in the preseason. But I guess not preseason, in before the conference schedules get underway, and even afterwards. Sometimes there are great non-conference basketball games, and they are one unafraid to schedule them, but two, they're unafraid to schedule them for long times. For instance, Kentucky and Gonzaga, who are two big time brands in college basketball, have a 6-game series scheduled. And it was announced today that they're going to play in Seattle this season. They'll play in Nashville the next season. And I think that is a model that I think college football should consider adopting in some aspects. Like, I would like to see more 4-game series instead of 2-game series, because while it's awesome to see Georgia play Clemson or see Ohio State play Notre Dame or see Texas play Michigan, whatever the case may be, it's cool to see it 4 times than twice. And if playing neutral site games is the key to getting 4-game series instead of 2-game series, I'm willing to accept that, because part of me is my worry is I don't want to see the big time games leave college campuses, right? Because there is some cachet and interest in Penn State traveling to Auburn, and Auburn traveling to Penn State, or Penn State playing West Virginia playing at Penn State, or Alabama playing at Wisconsin. I think those are awesome games, and I want to see it happen more. And how do we do that? Because I don't know that you're going to see you get to see 2 schools, universities, colleges say, yes, let's play a 4-game series. I'll come to you twice. You come to me twice. But if you have that bargaining chip, like for instance, Ohio State is supposed to play Alabama in 2028 and 2029. One in Tuscaloosa, one in Columbus. If you turn that into a 4-game series where each school gets to pick, like, hey, you choose where your neutral site game is, I'll choose where my neutral site game is. So if they play, and then they play Tuscaloosa, Columbus, and then Nashville and Indianapolis, or Orlando, or wherever Alabama wants to play, wherever Ohio State wants to play. They want to play in Dallas, that's cool. They want to play in Los Angeles, cool. You want to play in Honolulu, that's awesome. Because there are a couple of different reasons for why. One, it's a great thing. Go put on a show for your fans. Because I'm here to tell you, and I think if you injected some truth serum into college football fans, if you were to ask, would you rather see your favorite team play another really big time program and you lose? Or would you rather see your team play an FCS school or a low-level group of 5 school and you win by 60? Which would you rather see? I'm here to tell you there are more people than you think that would say, give me the L, but we got to talk about this game all week leading up to it, or all off-season leading up to it. It's a prime-time game that you had all day to look forward to. It was super interesting, back-and-forth battle that we lost at the final moment, and it sucks. But is that better than beating some MAC, Mountain West, Sun Belt, Conference USA school 62-3, and you got to see the 3rd-string running back get 15 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown? There are more people than you think that would sign up for the L because of the interest and the excitement and the notoriety and the anticipation and the pageantry and all of the things that come with your big time versus big time matchup. Because we don't get to see it all that often. And that's one of the byproducts of having a crappy playoff system for the last 150 years. But that's neither here nor there. Go put on a show for your fans. That is the key to building future fans, current fans. Right now, there is a issue in college football where Ticket sales have become increasingly harder. Stadiums are more difficult to fill than they ever have been before. Why? Because one, the experience of going to a college football game sucks. And I think I've talked about this before. Like, you got to park a mile away, pay $25 to do it. You can either hoof it, you can pay $30 for an Uber to take you to the stadium, where you then have to climb 10,000 steps to get to your seat, where you paid $150 for a crappy seat. It's either too hot or it's too cold. You can't see anything. The guy next to you is puking because he drank 13 Busch Lights in the parking lot before you got in, because he wasn't about to pay $13 for a 12-ounce can of Busch Latte at the stadium, and it's probably going to be warm by the time he gets back to his seat. Or I can sit in my recliner in 4K and watch Gus and Joel or Herbie and Chris Fowler tell me how awesome this is. It's a really easy choice. But you know what? If the tickets were $150 for big time name versus big time name, if it's Oklahoma versus Notre Dame, or it's USC versus Alabama, LSU versus Michigan, I got to see it. I want to see it. I want my favorite team to play super interesting games all the time. And so, if part of that is going from 2-game series to a 4-game series, and you got to play a neutral site, I'm willing to do that. So go put on a show for your fans, but also go put a show on for college football fans in general. They will pay attention when big names go at it. There's a reason Ohio State, Michigan is the most watched game of the regular season every year. And then you get games like LSU versus Alabama, or Alabama versus Auburn, or Georgia versus Florida. There's a reason people watch those games, because they know, they expect the level of Texas, Oklahoma is going to bring every year. So go put on a show. Texas versus Michigan this year going to be a big game. Ohio State versus Oregon. It's going to be huge. Georgia versus Alabama. It's going to be watched by millions and millions of people. The bigger the names and the bigger the brands that you've got, the better. And if playing neutral site games is a way to do that, then let's do it. But maybe most important in this aspect is you can go put on a show for recruits. Because if Ohio State and Alabama were going to play a 4-game series instead of a 2-game series, Alabama might say, hey, let's play in Atlanta. Let's play in Nashville. If they want to play in Atlanta to woo recruits from the state of Georgia, or they want to play in Orlando to impress recruits from Florida, Texas, wherever. And Ohio State is going to want to recruit kids from those same areas too. They might want to play the game in Washington, D.C. to recruit kids from Virginia and Maryland, Washington, D.C. Wherever the case may be, wherever you can find these players, you're going to want to do that. Because if you can play games where those kids are, it knocks off the proximity to home factor that some kids care about. Some kids really want to stay close to home. Some kids want to play at the biggest universities they can. There's no way to really, for me to decide who and where that is. But this was a big thing back in the old Big 12 with Colorado and Nebraska, right? Because Boulder and Lincoln are not close to Texas, to Dallas, to Houston, San Antonio, Austin, West Texas. But they could recruit those areas because in that conference, you could say, hey, we're not Boulder is not close to Dallas. Boulder is not close to Houston. Lincoln is not close to West Texas, but we can recruit kids from there because in our conference, we're going to play games at Texas Tech, at Baylor, at A&M, at Texas. So we're going to be in your neck of the woods all the time. And if Ohio State can say, hey, we're going to play games in Florida, we're going to play games in Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, California, that's good for them. If Alabama wants to recruit kids from Louisiana, South Carolina, Tennessee, wherever, New Jersey, Virginia, put a game there. Say you're going to get the opportunity. We're going to bring a game as close to your hometown as we can get it. You have the opportunity to show out in front of your fans, in front of your friends, in front of your family, and you're not going to have to drive very far to do it. And if we're going to be in that area twice a year or whatever, that's a really strong recruiting pitch. We're going to play in NFL stadiums because we want you to get used to playing on the big stage in front of, and getting used to playing in NFL locker rooms, in NFL media markets. when everything in college football revolves around recruiting. This is an easy W. We're going to go on the road. One, it's going to show how strong your fan base is because you know what? Ohio State and Alabama are going to play in Nashville. It's going to be 50-50. Ohio State and Alabama are going to play in Dallas. It's going to be 50-50. If Wisconsin, Notre Dame play in Chicago, it's going to be 50-50. If Oklahoma plays Michigan and they decide they want to play in St. Louis or Washington, D.C., or insert any city with an NFL stadium here, it's going to be 50-50. It's going to show off your fan base, but it's also going to say to recruits, we are willing to come play wherever the world you are so you get exposed to us. And if that gets you to bring your friends, bring your family, bring your high school teachers, former teammates, whatever the case may be, we're going to do it. It's a really, really, really powerful recruiting pitch, but then it also brings more eyeballs to your program. If you're going to play a big-time team in a big-time stadium in a neutral site, or we're going to play them 4 times, it's going to develop a little bit of a rivalry. There's going to be wars on the recruiting trail. There's going to be wars on how in the hell do we beat that team that's beat us twice before, or whatever the case may be. Storylines. It has everything. So I want to see, and I hope you do too, I hope you want to see more big-name brands take on more big-name brands. I want to see Oregon play Florida. And if they want to play in Los Angeles, they want to play in New York, they want to play in Philadelphia, I don't care where. I want to see that. You should, I'm speaking for you, you should want to see that too. And however we got to do it to make it happen. But if playing neutral site games, I don't want to see every big-time game become a neutral site game. I don't want that because I think it's fun and enticing and exciting that Ohio State's going to go to Tuscaloosa and Alabama's going to come to Columbus, or Alabama's going to Wisconsin this year. Florida went to Utah. Utah went to Florida. I want to see those games. I want to see them on campus. I want the things that make college football great to be on display. But if the trade-off of doing that is 50% of those games are played in NFL stadiums or wherever they decide to put them, I'm willing to make that deal. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. See you tomorrow for another episode here of the Daily Huddle.